there has been a lot of debate about whether there's going to be a V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery, or an L-shaped recovery. Came across a terminology which is very interesting. EY came up with something called a saw-shaped recovery. So the saw-shaped recovery looks something like this, and the extent of the saw depends on how do we cope with the healthcare systems to cope with the pandemic, how do we ensure workforce comes back to work, how do we ensure that the domestic supply chains are integrated well, and things of that nature. Now, obviously, in some sectors, like in the electrical industry, when the government gives 90,000 crore, which has been increased to 120,000 crore to DISCOMs, and tells them that you use this money to pay the companies that are in the power distribution side of in terms of some of those organizations who are in power supply, and that is something that will ensure contractor payments get released, that the contractors can take up newer work, because today everyone is completely cash strapped. So there the policies are useful. What has happened?
So, Ram, sorry, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to Dinesh, because Dinesh needs to apparently log off. He's got a call at 11. Thanks a lot, Dinesh, for being there, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Ram. Yeah.
So the other aspect is a liquidity that is being provided through the banking channels and things of that nature, and I think that is something that will fuel the ability of organizations and the ability of lenders to continue lending to an extent to ensure that there is a bit of a liquidity that continues. So that's going to be very, very important. The third important aspect that we need to cope with is the reality that there is only so much that the government can do given the fiscal deficit situation. As it is, the fiscal deficit is expected to hit from 3.5%, it's likely to double to 7%. Now, no matter what you do, we don't have the flexibility to print notes like the US economy does. We are still, to that extent, highly constrained in terms of government response to the pandemic. I have a feeling that India has to take a bet in terms of its large consuming population. India has to look at a rate of recovery of the economy that is commensurate with our resources. And honestly, there is no magic bullet in terms of this. I have a feeling some of the steps in terms of a longer term reforms that's been announced in terms of 8 sectors, I think that is something that is very meaningful. The last point that I wish to make has to do with gig workers, and that is something which is very important in the context of supply chain. CII has a council on e-commerce, and from what I believe, what they are getting affected, and today everyone is an e-commerce company, even the brick and mortar companies that I've been a part of in the past. So today, availability of workers resulting in delays in shipping. So everyone is talking of a Murphy factor, where you factor in 6 or 7 days in terms of delay. So even if something normally should take not more than 2 days, you say, okay, I'll deliver in 8 days, so that you build in that Murphy factor. Gig workers, while there are labor, permanent, temporary, daily wage, contract labor, etc., but gig workers who pay for performance, pay as per delivery, how are they governed? What are the rules, regulations pertaining to their employment and their compensation? Third aspect is when it comes to omni-channels, the definition of additional place of doing business. One source to serve all channels, there are a lot of restrictions around that. And finally, input credit implications. For you to avail input credit, that's you are getting something in a particular state and delivering it to another state, do you need registrations across all those states? Isn't that something that defeats the very purpose of GST? And how does all the accounting happen? And will there be some sort of a huge, let us say, demand that's raised on you 4 years down the line, 3 years down the line, when the pandemic is perhaps overcome and forgotten? I think these are the critical issues that we need to mobilize industry opinion and take actions. Honestly, the government can only do so much. It's entrepreneurial ingenuity, corporate ingenuity that has to find solutions. We have to survive, and then we have to fight back.